You are not sure if it is night or morning, only that the darkness flickers with torchlight, and the air burns your lungs with the reek of sweat, pine pitch, and something older, like salted blood left too long in a warm bowl. You kneel on the fur of some beast that died screaming, its coarse hair still damp with the fear of whatever came before you. The ground beneath is sticky, the scent clings to your knees. Around you, the hall moans with drunken breath, its wooden ribs expanding and contracting like the belly of some great animal preparing to feast. Shadows move like spirits between the carved posts, looming larger than the men casting them. And in front of you, beyond the veil of your uncombed hair, is the chieftain's high seat, empty still, as if waiting for the gods to descend and speak with mortal mouths. The chanting begins again, low, rhythmic, unrelenting. It comes from their chests, not their throats, as if they are calling something up from below rather than offering prayer to the skies. One man beats a carved drum with a femur wrapped in rawhide, the sound more heartbeat than music. Another pours thick mead from a ram's horn over the altar stone, letting it run in rivulets that catch the firelight and shine like blood. Someone else moves behind you, unseen but close, so close you can hear the scrape of bone ornaments against skin, smell the rancid fat rubbed into his beard, feel the warm breath just before he presses a wet smear of red ochre onto the nape of your neck. You flinch, but you do not pull away, not anymore. You try not to meet their eyes, but even from the edges of your vision you see them watching, 20, maybe 30 raiders in total, each cloaked in damp fur and painted like they've already been to war and returned with pieces of the dead still clinging to them. Their eyes are hollow, gleaming not with lust, but with the frenzied reverence of ritual. What they want from you is not desire, it is obedience, it is transformation, it is sacrifice wrapped in ceremony. A man steps forward wearing the skull of a boar like a crown, its tusks bound in copper wire, its empty sockets filled with scraps of moss and resin that burn when lit. He carries a blade, a ritual knife not long but wide, carved with runes that drip waxy sap. He lays it across your thighs. You do not move. The blade is not meant to kill, not yet. A seethe Kona approaches. The old woman, draped in raven feathers and wool dyed black with grave ash. Her fingers are knotted like roots, and her eyes are gone to cataracts, but she sees more than any of them. She murmurs something in Old Norse you barely understand, words about the tree of worlds, about soil and seed and blood that must water the sacred ground. She touches your cheek with one finger, then leans close and whispers, "Tonight, you will be open to the gods." Her breath smells of earth and rot. You want to scream, you want to run, but your limbs are not yours anymore. They've been painted, bound, claimed. Someone is behind you now, kneeling. You can feel the tremble in their body through the furs you both kneel on. You don't know her name. You never asked. She won't be here long enough for it to matter. Her wrists are bound like yours with braided sealskin, her eyes wide with the terror you've already burned through. When the drums rise, she begins to sob. You don't. You just listen. The door opens. The chieftain enters. He is tall, his face veiled in a mask of polished wood, carved with the snarling face of a wolf. You have never seen his true face. You don't think anyone has. His presence draws silence. Even the drums falter. He carries no weapon, no crown, only a leather-wrapped bundle in his hands. Slowly, deliberately, he lays it on the altar. Unwrapped, it reveals a crown of bone and antler, woven with strands of blonde hair. It is wet. You realize, far too late, that it is not ceremonial. It is taken. The chanting resumes. And this time, it is meant for you. Before the smoke, before the drums, before the red paint dried in the creases of your skin, there was a river. Cold and running swift with spring thaw, it curled through the edge of your village like a silver thread, and you used to wade barefoot through its shallows with your skirts hitched to your thighs, carrying the woven baskets your mother filled with linen soaked in plant dye. Your fingers were always stained blue from woad, yellow from weld, sometimes purple when the elderberries were good, and the women praised your precision, the steadiness of your hands, the quiet way you worked. You were still too young for marriage, but old enough to be noticed, and you had just begun to braid your hair in the way of unmarried girls, hopeful, secretive, watching the world with cautious curiosity. There was peace, of the simple kind, the sort that folds itself into muscle memory, the way you carried firewood, the weight of bread dough under your palm, the lull of your mother's voice when she sang while mending, her spindle turning like the sun on its own axis. You lived close to the earth, and the gods you knew were local and small, a spirit in the hearthstone, a guardian in the orchard, a whisper in the fog. But that morning, the wind changed. You remember the sudden hush that fell on the animals first, the way the dogs stopped barking and the hens refused to cluck. You stood with your elbows deep in the dye vat and saw the first black sail rising over the marsh reeds, impossible and foreign, like the fin of some sea beast sent to drag the world under. The sound that followed wasn't war cries but oars, dozens of them, beating the water in perfect rhythm like a heart too large to belong to any man. By the time your father ran for the axe, it was already over. The men who came were not hurried. They moved with the stillness of certainty. Their faces were smeared with soot, and their armor was made of stitched bone and leather, patterned with runes you could not read. They took what they wanted: grain, iron tools, women. But they didn't touch you at first. You were pushed to your knees, your hair yanked back by a gloved hand as one of them inspected your teeth, your hips, the smoothness of your skin. Then a woman stepped forward, wrapped in animal furs with a silver disc hanging from her neck. Her eyes met yours, not cruel, but cold, so cold that it burned. She marked your collarbone with ash from the village fire and nodded once. You were chosen. They didn't bind you like the others. Not right away. Instead, they fed you bread soaked in herbs and kept you separate, watched by the silver disc woman who said little but never stopped watching. She spoke of the gods differently, not like stories, but like contracts. She said your body was now a thread in a greater weave, and that pain was only the loom. You didn't understand her words then, not fully. You still thought someone would come for you. That your mother had hidden, that your father had survived, that the gods would intervene. But when the boat pulled away from the shore, and your village became a smear of smoke against the sky, you began to realize what the thread would cost. The ship stank of salt, pitch, and human waste. They made you lie with your face to the wood and your hands under your stomach, so you wouldn't lash out in your sleep. Another girl was kept nearby, younger than you, sick from the motion of the sea and always whispering names. Her mother, her brother, her goat. She faded within days. No one marked her passing. Her body was thrown to the sea, not even wrapped. And when the gulls circled, the men laughed. They said the gods were eating. By the time the coastline of your homeland disappeared entirely, you had stopped crying. You stared at the waves, the endless, churning grey, and learned the rhythm of their violence. You began to forget your mother's songs, the names of your neighbours, even the smell of home. The only thing that remained was the stain on your collarbone black ash that no scrubbing could remove. Every time you touched it, you remembered the look in the priestess's eyes. You were not cargo. You were not plunder. You were an offering. They do not tell you where they are taking you, only that the time has come. The priestess no longer speaks in riddles. She does not smile. You are led beyond the wooden palisades of their settlement, past the longhouse and the forge, past the place where slaves are bound and the river bends away into the woods. The men do not follow. This is not their part. The ritual belongs to the women now, those older than time, with eyes sunken deep from smoke and knowledge, with mouths that move in song but no longer hold warmth. You are taken barefoot into the forest, where the trees grow close and heavy with moss, their trunks carved with runes you cannot read. Bone charms hang from the branches, clicking together in the windless dark like teeth chattering in a skull. The air smells of wet bark and old blood. The silence is not peaceful, it is waiting. Watching. At the heart of the grove is the altar stone, slick with lichen and oil, discolored from centuries of rain and whatever else has soaked into it. Around it, a circle of women hums a low, throaty sound that vibrates in your bones more than your ears. You are stripped of your shift, your hair untied, your wrists painted again. This time not in ochre, but in a mixture of mead, sheep's blood, and ash. They smear it into your skin with flat palms, chanting names you do not know, of goddesses, of giants, of wombs that birthed chaos and seeded the sky. You are made to kneel with your back against the altar, legs folded beneath you, arms laid across your lap like a supplicant. Then the pain begins, not sharp but ceremonial, dragged out with precision. They carve shallow runes into your thighs with bone needles dipped in dye. Each line is a symbol. Each symbol is a key. You do not scream. They do not expect you to. When they are finished, your body feels no longer yours. It stings, it swells, but more than anything, it disconnects. The skin beneath your ribs doesn't feel like yours anymore. The hands on your shoulders don't feel like hands. They say you are open now, spiritually, ritually, cosmically. You are the field prepared for sowing. One of the women leans close and tells you, in a voice like dust, that the next part is not cruelty, but communion, that to deny it would be to deny your place in the order of things. You do not understand, but you nod, because understanding has become irrelevant. Your thoughts are too slow, as if your mind is being pulled behind your body like a shadow on a rope. You have been drugged, you realize. The mead, the herbs, the smoke that coils in the clearing like mist, laced with something bitter, something that slows the world and muffles your panic. They lay you on your back. The altar is cold beneath you, your carved legs trembling as women bind your wrists in soft cloth and murmur blessings. A masked man is brought forward, not one of the warriors who took you, but someone dressed in white, with gloves made of lambskin and a face hidden by a mask of horsehair and amber beads. He carries no weapons. He carries nothing at all. He kneels between your legs. You do not know his name. You never will. He is not here to take pleasure. He is here to fulfill a role. His body is only a conduit, like yours. This is how they sanctify what they do, by making everyone a tool of the gods. You dissociate. Your mind goes somewhere else. You focus on the bone charms above, how they twist in the still air even though there is no wind. You count the cracks in the stone. You taste iron in your mouth and don't know if it's from biting your tongue or something else. You think of the river again, the cold of it, the way it carried your mother's dye downstream in ribbons, how beautiful that was, how soft the colors looked in the sunlight. You cling to that memory like a handhold on the edge of a cliff, but it slips. When it is done, the women cover you in a wool cloak and leave you on the altar until night falls. The wind returns slowly, brushing over your skin like judgment. You feel nothing. You are not alone. There is another girl now, brought to lie beside you. Her eyes are open, staring at the sky, as if searching for a constellation to blame. You don't speak. You are not supposed to. The ritual is complete. They call you vessel, and from now on, that is all you are. You learn quickly that the rituals do not end, they only change shape. What was once sacred ceremony in the grove becomes performance in the longhouse, and though your body is no longer carved or bound with rope, you are still being shaped. Only now it is with eyes, with words, with expectations. They dress you in white linen that smells of mead and grave moss, the hem singed by ash, the sleeves long enough to hide your scars. Your face is veiled in strands of horsehair, yellowed and coarse, threaded with amber beads that clack against your cheeks when you move. You are made to walk before the raiders on feast days, barefoot across the stone floor, bearing a bowl of goat's blood mixed with herbs. You hold it high, arms shaking from the weight, and when they shout blessings to Athin and Freya, you nod as if you are the one granting them. They cheer, they pound their fists on the table, they believe they are favored because of you. They believe the raids are blessed because your body has been marked, because your silence is obedient, because your eyes never meet theirs. They call you good luck. They call you chosen. You learn to smile behind the veil. In the quiet moments, when the hall is dark and the fire burns low, you touch the runes on your thighs and try to remember what they mean. No one ever told you. You know only that they itch when it rains and burn when someone watches you for too long. You stopped asking questions. You stopped thinking in full thoughts. Your mind is a hallway of locked doors, and only one remains open, the one that leads to compliance. You do what you are told. You kneel where you are placed. You drink what you are given. When the priestess nods, you follow. When the gods are hungry, you open your legs and think of nothing. Sometimes you see the other girls, the ones who were chosen after you, and you wonder if you look like they do now, hollow-eyed, pale as bone, wearing the white linen like it's their own skin flayed from their backs. You do not speak to them. There is no point. You are all performing the same role. You are all vessels now. You begin to dream of fire. Not the comforting hearthfires of your childhood, but roaring flames that consume the longhouse, flames that lick up the carved posts and turn the wooden gods into blackened husks. In the dreams, you are never afraid. You walk barefoot across burning floors, and your skin does not blister. You open your mouth, and no smoke enters. You see your mother through the smoke sometimes, but she does not recognize you. She calls for someone else, a girl with blue-dyed fingers who is already gone. You wake from these dreams with your hands clenched and your jaw aching, and sometimes you find blood on your tongue from biting it in your sleep. The priestess says these are visions sent by the gods. She tells you it means your womb is blessed. You nod, because nodding is easier than screaming. Then there are the sea rituals. When the raiders prepare for a new conquest, they bring you to the shoreline, your feet scraped raw by the ice-crusted sand. They bind your wrists in gold-painted rope and tie your veil tighter, then place you at the front of the ship beneath the carved dragon head. You lie on your back as the tide rises, your body stiff with cold, and the men chant around you while slashing their arms with knives, letting their blood drip onto the deck. You are the offering now, the human figurehead meant to guide them through storm and slaughter. The salt stings the cuts on your legs. The waves slap your thighs like judgment. You close your eyes and try to become the mast, the sail, the rope. Anything but yourself. They return from these raids, blood-soaked and triumphant, throwing coin and flesh at your feet as if they are gifts for the gods. Sometimes they bring back more girls, eyes wide, bodies trembling. You are made to help wash them, paint them, teach them how to breathe without hope. You are calm when they cry. You stroke their hair and tell them to go still. You do not tell them it gets better. It doesn't. It only gets quieter. You survive by forgetting how to be alive. One night, they bring back a child. She cannot be more than 10 winters old. She is chosen too, and though her screams are small, they echo louder than any war cry. You are told to prepare her. You are told to anoint her with herbs. You look into her eyes and see your own reflection, so pale, so hollow, so silent. You feel something shift deep inside, a tremor, faint, like a hairline crack in stone. You ignore it. You must, because to feel is to die. They call you blessed, but the gods stopped watching long ago. You learn the rhythm of their hunger, the same way a bird learns the shift of the wind. There is no rebellion left in your limbs, no trembling in your fingers when they strip you for the rites, only the practiced grace of a woman who understands that performance is a form of survival. They want a goddess. You give them one. You move as they taught you, slow, serpentine, with your arms raised like branches and your feet careful not to disturb the crushed herbs laid across the hall floor. You anoint your own skin with oil now, mixed with ashes from the sacred hearth and the blood of sacrificed animals, and you speak the chants in a voice not your own. You know how to make your breath catch at just the right moment. You know how to arch your body like a shrine that weeps for its supplicants. They believe you have become holy. They believe your eyes see beyond this world. They do not know that what you see is emptiness, an endless void in which your name no longer echoes. There is no voice left to call you back. You buried her long ago, the girl who flinched, who wept, who remembered what it was like to walk unpainted in the morning sun. They call it a festival, but it feels like slaughter turned inside out. The hall is filled with firelight and drunk breath, with the clamour of bone instruments and stamping feet. You stand at the centre of it all, barefoot on stained floorboards, your veil lifted for once, your face painted in swirling red lines meant to mimic divine ecstasy. They crown you with antlers bound in bronze and call you Fraser's chosen. You do not flinch when the first man touches you, not roughly, but as if your skin grants him access to eternity. You let him, you let them all. You smile as they pour honeyed wine down your throat, as they throw coins at your feet, as they chant your name, not your true name, which you no longer remember, but the title they gave you, the mouth of the gods. You dance until your knees buckle. You bleed into the white linen until it clings to your thighs like skin. You speak the blessings they expect to hear. And when it is done, when the torches die out and the men slump into mead-sick slumber, you retreat to the shadows and wipe your mouth with the hem of your robe, slow, silent, precise. You are not empty, not truly. Deep within the shell they shaped for you, something still pulses, a shard of self buried so deep that even you are afraid to touch it. You feed it in secret. You keep the names of the lost scratched into your skin beneath your clothes, small, shallow carvings with a bone needle stolen from the seer's basket. Each mark is a name, a girl, a scream. You hide them beneath your breast, along the line of your ribs, in places no one dares examine. It is your private scripture, your secret defiance. When the others cry, you hold them. When they break, you gather the pieces and place them beside your own. You become something more than vessel. You become the graveyard in which all the others are buried, the echo chamber of every girl who didn't make it past her first rite. The priestess calls it strength. The warriors call it sacred. They do not know it is simply what is left when the soul goes into hiding. Sometimes, you think of what might have happened if you'd run again, if you'd taken the knife meant for the goat and plunged it into the throat of the man who crowned you. You think of the sea, of how it might have welcomed your body without pain, without ceremony, just water-swallowing silence. But then someone calls your name, the false one, the sacred one, and you smile, you rise. You walk into the center of the hall and lift your arms to the ceiling as if calling down the stars. They cheer, they chant, they do not see the girl beneath the paint. They only see what they want to see, a symbol, a god, a woman who loves her chains. You have become very good at pretending, and for that they say you are holy. You never plan to run again. That was a thought you buried along with the last of your name, a memory so fragile it could only exist in dreams, where your feet still knew how to move without pain, without fear, without chains. But then came the storm. It roared across the coast like something uninvited by the gods, tearing down trees and swallowing huts, thrashing the longships in their moorings until men dropped to their knees in the mud, praying for mercy. It came at dusk, just as the priestess was marking your face with blue woad for the autumn rite, her hands trembling from old age or some foreboding she refused to name. The sky split open, and for a moment you felt the gods had finally looked down, not to judge, but to turn their faces away. That night, while the hall flooded and the warriors howled at thunder, you slipped out barefoot through the half-rotted fence, your ceremonial robes clinging to your thighs like a shroud, your fingers still stained from the blood of a lamb you had been forced to bless. You ran. Into the trees, into the mud, into the dark. You tore your veil from your face and flung it into the branches, like casting off skin that no longer fit. Your breath burned your lungs, each step slicing your feet open on roots and stone, but you didn't care, because for the first time in years your body moved for itself. You thought of the sea. You thought of walking into it without a sound, letting it close over you like a final lullaby. You didn't expect to survive. You didn't want to. But the thought of choosing your own ending, of giving yourself back to silence on your terms, made your limbs fly faster than you believed they still could. You were almost there. You could smell the salt again. You could hear the crash of the tide. They caught you before you reached the shore. They did not kill you. They did not scream. That would have been honest, and honesty has no place in rituals. Instead, they took you back with reverence. They washed your wounds in ice-cold water and wrapped you in wool like an honored dead. They lit torches, sang the sacred hymns, burned herbs that made your eyes sting and your throat close. The priestess did not beat you. She pressed her forehead to yours and whispered that you had wandered off the path but would be forgiven, that the gods had sent the storm to test you, and your return proved your worth. They called it mercy. They said you had been lost and now were found. They said you were blessed. They dressed you in white again. They made you kneel in front of the longhouse with a crown of antlers placed gently upon your head, as if you were being wed to the divine. You did not resist. You had already learned that resistance is not punished with death. It is punished with transformation. You stood beneath the watching eyes of everyone who had ever used your body to feel closer to heaven, and you did what they asked. You sang, you wept, you thanked the gods, they praised your strength, they spoke of redemption, they called you sacred again. But this time you knew what the word really meant. It meant owned. It meant marked. It meant whatever part of you had managed to survive until now was going to be taken, slowly, lovingly, in the name of mercy. That night, they brought forth a girl. She was younger than you had ever been when this began, barely 10 winters by the look of her, with tangled hair and bruises on her shins from being dragged through the stones. She had not yet learned silence. Her screams cut through the firelight like blades. She begged in a language you hadn't heard in years, the tongue of your childhood, the one you once whispered in the fields while dyeing linen with your mother. It struck you like a blow. You understood every word. You remembered what it felt like to be her. You remembered what it cost to forget, and yet they placed the paintbrush in your hand. The priestess said nothing. She only nodded. You were the vessel, after all. Who else could anoint the next? Your fingers trembled as you dipped the brush into a bowl filled with goat's blood and ash. He stepped forward. The girl kicked. They held her still, her eyes locked on yours, not with fear, but with accusation, as if she knew that you, more than anyone, should have stopped this. You hesitated. For one terrible moment, you thought you might refuse, but the priestess's hand touched your shoulder, and your body moved before your soul could catch up. You painted the blood on the girl's forehead. You whispered the blessings, and when it was done, you returned to your place by the fire and watched her weep. That was the last time you cried. Not because it was the worst thing you had done, but because it was the first time you had done it willingly. There comes a time when even your heartbeat feels like noise. You wake each day before the fire is stoked, before the men rouse from their drinking, and the priestess lights her sacred herbs, and you sit at the edge of the longhouse wrapped in wool that was not given to you for comfort, but to hide the shivering. No one gives you orders anymore. You no longer need them. You rise when the drums call. You kneel when the rites begin. You speak the blessings in a voice you no longer claim as your own. The younger girls look at you with wide, hollow eyes, half afraid of you, half clinging to you like ghosts desperate for shape. They believe you are powerful. They believe you are holy. They do not understand that you are empty, that you have long since ceased to carry anything but other people's pain. Even the priestess has begun to treat you like a relic, not a person. She lays her hands on your shoulders with the same reverence she offers the altar stones, not because she loves you, but because she fears what you now represent. You have become the perfect vessel. The gods, if they ever spoke, speak only through your silence. Some nights, you lie awake staring at the beams above you, following the cracks in the wood like veins leading back to a heart you lost long ago. You no longer dream of running. You no longer remember the taste of your mother's bread, the coolness of river water around your ankles, the laughter that once caught in your chest when spring winds tousled your hair. All that is gone, all that is dead, and yet something lingers. Not a voice, not a thought, just the echo of what should have been. You sometimes wonder what they will do with you when your body fails. Will they burn you on a pyre wrapped in furs and salt, calling you a prophetess? Will they send your bones into the sea as a blessing for future raids? Or will they bury you in the forest where it all began, your mouth stuffed with coins to silence whatever screams you might carry into the afterlife? You no longer care, but you watch the others. You see the rituals continue, see the girls younger and younger brought forward, taught to kneel, to chant, to bleed. You see the men's eyes glaze over with divine entitlement. You hear the priestess reciting the same myths that were once forced into your ears, that pain is sanctified, that sacrifice is honorable, that suffering is not only necessary but sacred. And for a moment, your body stills in a way it never has before, not in obedience but in horror, because you realize, with a clarity sharper than any blade, that the system was never built to appease the gods. It was built to perpetuate itself. The rituals were never about devotion. They were about power, about transforming broken children into instruments so polished and silent that even their tormentors began to believe in their divinity. They will speak of you after you're gone, not by name, that was taken, but by title. They will say, "She was the chosen one, she never cried, she danced for the gods, she brought us victory." They will write stories, sing songs, carve runes into posts that claim your body was a bridge to the divine. They will not mention the altar stone still stained with your blood. They will not speak of the girl who carved names into her own ribs in the dark. They will not whisper of the moment you anointed a child with shaking hands. The truth will rot beneath the rituals, unspoken and holy in its silence. Centuries from now, men will study the sagas of conquest. They will marvel at the glory of the Norse, at the ferocity of the raids, at the beauty of the seer women who led them to battle with painted skin and sacred blood. But no one will ask what it cost. No one will ask who was consumed to build those myths. No one will kneel beside the graves where girls were buried alive in white linen, with smiling masks tied to their faces to make them appear willing. And that is the final ritual. Not the blood, not the binding, but forgetting,